We begin in France, where the race is tightening between the two frontrunners for the April 24th runoff. Far-right leader and candidate Marine Le Pen is staging a comeback in the polls. As her presidential campaign gains momentum, Le Pen has notched the highest ever score for herself in the opinion polls. In an opinion poll of a likely runoff against Emmanuel Macron, Le Pen has captured 48.5% of voter intentions. It is the highest score she has ever secured. The study from April 1st to 4th puts Macron's rating at 51.5%. According to the Harris Interactive poll, this is the first time that the two finalists of the presidential election are in such a close race. In 2017, Macron won the runoff vote against Le Pen with 66%. Another poll by Opinionway and Kia Partners also forecast a narrowing 53 to 47% margin of victory for Macron. The past months, Macron's victory has been considered almost a foregone conclusion. But research firm Harris Interactive has said that a victory by Macron is now within the margin of error. The Harris Interactive poll is in line with every other survey over the last month. All of them still show Macron as the likely winner. But since Macron began the campaign with a delay, there is substantial reduction in his lead. Macron is distracted by the Ukraine crisis. He has focused on rather unpopular economic reforms, including raising the retirement age. On the other hand, Le Pen focused on the declining purchasing power of middle and lower income voters. Another major issue in the country is pension reforms. Macron plans to increase the legal age at which one gets a full pension from 62 to 65. But Le Pen wants to keep the 62-year-old threshold. She also wants to bring it down to 60 years for those who started working before the age of 20 years. But Macron argues that raising the retirement age is needed to make the system viable and increase low pensions. Less than 1 week ahead of the first election round, Le Pen's ratings have continued to improve for both the first round and the April 24th runoff. This means Le Pen's campaign is working well in her favor. WION correspondent Ross Cullen is joining us live from Paris. Ross, good to see you and welcome to this broadcast. Purchasing power is a top focus in an election that includes far left and far right candidates. Ross, can you begin by telling us why this neck-and-neck race is crucial not just for France, but for Europe?
Yes, you're right, Eric, touching on those latest polls which show Marine Le Pen rising in the polls, not enough to win the presidency at the current level that she's polling at, but they are high levels. They show that the gap between her and Emmanuel Macron is narrowing to within the margin of error. She now seems to be the likely candidate to break through the first round of voting and match up to Emmanuel Macron in the second round 2 weeks later. The overall picture in Europe has changed, particularly since Angela Merkel left office in Germany at the end of last year, stepping down from the chancellorship, and there is a new government, a new chancellor, Olaf Scholz, now leading the way in Germany, and Berlin and Paris are the top two capitals for the European Union, the two giants within the 27-member bloc, and France really has the consequences of the French election will be felt far and wide. It is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. It is not just a European nation, but has parts of the country in the Caribbean, in the Indian Ocean, in the Pacific Ocean. There are 2 million citizens of France spread across the Indian and Pacific Oceans, 7,000 soldiers, and France's largest economic zone is located in the Pacific Ocean as well. France really is one of those major countries. It's the most visited country in the world when it comes to tourism, culture, politics, the economy. It's a really important country, not just for the European Union, but for the wider world as well.
Ross, what are some of the major issues in the minds of French voters that will be crucial in this election?
Well, you're right that purchasing power is one of the top issues. The energy crisis that we are seeing, the cost of your utilities, rising inflation, the cost of basic goods, that's going to be one of the top topics on voters' minds when they go to the first round of the election, when all 12 candidates can go up against each other. this Sunday, the 10th of April. Of those 12, the top 2 go through to the second round, and it's likely at the moment that Marine Le Pen is going to be the second favourite to make through to the second round, after Emmanuel Macron is the clear leader in the first round, the incumbent president. Alongside purchasing power and inflation, home economic problems that we are seeing households having to deal with, the war in Ukraine is having an impact as well. Emmanuel Macron has been campaigning, but also trying to continue his diplomacy dialogue with Western allies such as Olaf Scholz in Germany, Joe Biden in the United States, Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom, but also regular calls to Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, and he is speaking to Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, to try to continue to force Russia into a position where it can stop the war and remove its troops from inside Ukraine, continuing isolation on the Kremlin in the aftermath of the discovery of the hundreds of bodies in the town of Bucha just outside Ukraine, and we are just outside the Ukrainian capital Kiev, and we are expecting new sanctions to be announced by the European Union. So Emmanuel Macron is also trying to continue his dialogue and diplomacy within the context of the war in Ukraine.
Live from Paris, Ross Cullen, thank you very much for your insights and for talking to us today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.